So innovate instead of duplicate. And that allows you to also play within multiple ecosystems, whether it be Apple HomeKit or Google's Home and Amazon and so on. And instead of having to go through and develop a device so that it can run in each of these, you can take the device and it will run in all of them. And so that increases your TAM, your total addressable market for your customers or manufacturers. It is a pleasure to be here today. Unfortunately, ich spreche Deutsch nicht so gut. So, since high school, I haven't really practiced, but I do love the language, and I love being here. My first time in Hamburg. I've been to Munich and Nuremberg and other places, but this is the first time here, and it's a beautiful city. So thank you for hosting me. So I am located, my office is located in San Jose in the Bay Area. I reside in Salt Lake City, Utah, in the US of A. Near where the Olympics were in 2002, and we're hoping for another Winter Olympics in 2034. So we're on track. So that would be fantastic. Please come visit me. I am director of, I'll try to get out of the way, director of marketing and product within NXP in our business unit, which is the Secure Connected Edge. So that includes processing, connectivity, sensing, like UWB and other types of sensing, as well as our secure elements and a lot of products that are within a lot of our market-leading technologies that are in mobile pay, mobile fare, so any of your your phone-capable entry onto the trains and so on. And I've been with NXP for almost 5 years. Before that, I actually was with the Zigbee Alliance, which is now called the Connectivity Standard Alliance. I was driving marketing and actually started the initiative, which is now called Matter. So the strategy and the foundation started in about 2017 timeframe, 2016, 2017, and it continued to grow into Project Chip and into Matter, and that's where it is today. So I definitely have a lot of background in what's going on with Matter and a lot of investment and motivation to see it succeed. So with that, so on that note, where's the best place to stand? Is this okay here? Perfect, okay. So the capabilities, as is noted here, that we're building into all of our edge devices and our products is growing at an increasing rate. The complexity and what each of these devices can do is becoming really a phenomenal thing. However, these devices are often by themselves. They're independent of each other. And so, as I noted here, are they really smart? Is a smart bulb really smart? Is a smart plug really smart? Or is it just connected to something else that is smarter and it's not aware of the devices that are around it? It can't discover what they are, what they can do, and those types of things. And so with that, that's what's going on in the smart home ecosystem. We have a lot of smart devices that aren't necessarily intelligent other than just what they know or what the cloud can tell them. So, but the smart home ecosystem is a tremendous opportunity. The potential there is great. As is noted here from ABI Research, over 2 billion devices will be shipped annually into the homes by 2027. And that's an intense amount of potential and opportunity for us to be able to bring those together in a way where they can actually provide meaningful effect and meaningful experiences in the home. The way we look at it within NXP is we want to take these smart devices, make them smart by having them be able to be aware, be able to discover devices in the home, to be able to understand their capabilities, and be able to work together. And when we do that, we'll truly be able to make an autonomous home where there's intelligence, as I'm sure there was discussed earlier today. I heard there's some AI discussions and so on. As the intelligence engines are there, they're only as smart as the information that's brought into them, right? And so the more we understand from a sensing what's in the home, where the devices are, where the people are in the home, and things like that, that is the data that's needed to really propel those intelligence engines to make an autonomous home a reality. So what's driving those? Energy. So as we all know, there's a desire to lower the cost of emissions, CO2 and so on, lower utility bills. So especially in Europe, I know energy is a big topic, right? Being able to lower that. There's also requirements with power consumption, getting our system power down under less than a half a watt, even lower. You know, standby power. I'm sure many of you have heard about those regulations within the EU, which are then spreading into other regulatory bodies around the world. And that's really, really important. And then because of that, then you've also got security on top of that that's also driving product security. So one other thing besides Matter that's happening within the CSA is we have something called the Product Security Working Group, and I'll show you a slide briefly on that. And that is basically creating a label program so devices, so consumers can buy devices off the shelf that have a label that said this is certified as a certain product security level. I know some of it's in industrial. There's certain kind of industrial or other kind of or industry standards, but consumers don't know them. But to have a logo program from the EU or from the White House in the US or from Singapore and whatnot is something that is happening. And so people need to be able to say, hey, this is secure. I can buy this. It has the right logo, kind of like a UL logo and so on. And so that's happening. Now, the third motivation to really make this autonomous home a reality is just the quality of life that we can achieve. So just a small personal story is my father just passed away last December, and he had Parkinson's disease. He had it for many years. The last few years he was bedridden and in hospice, and it was hard for him because he was there mentally, but he couldn't do many things. So during a time when he couldn't really get up and move, I would notice I would lay in, sometimes I would stay with him in the room next to him, and I'd hear him in the morning talk to Alexa. Alexa, what's the weather today? Or he'd ask Alexa certain questions. And then I decided they didn't like technology because it was too overwhelming, but I did get some smart bulbs that communicated with Alexa, and he was able to say, Alexa, dim the light. Alexa, change the color. Just something that he could do. It gave him freedom and independence that he couldn't do before, that somebody else had to turn on the light switch and whatnot. So that dawned on me as energy and security and all that, super important. But what can we do for people that can actually be benefited by smart home or smart building technology more than just hobbyists, right? I mean, I'm a hobbyist. We like to fiddle with things, but the reality is smart home has been a hobbyist market, and we need to change that. Okay, so what's the problem? We have the stakeholders. A lot of us here are part of the stakeholder group. We have service providers, we have platform providers, installers, retailers, device OEMs, and so on. But the other areas is where we struggle. The infrastructure lacks interoperability. The standards and regulations lack standardization. Users have had poor experience. In fact, when we started in 2016, that one major statistic drove what we wanted to do with Matter and something that would solve problems. It was like 60% of devices that were bought, smart home devices, were returned unopened. So that was back in 2016, 2017. So they didn't even try. Could we talk about commissioning and the setup experience being difficult? Well, what about just people not even want to try because even they don't know if it worked with something else and whatnot. It's really difficult. So poor consumer confidence is a key thing. And then lack of personalization, like having to create rules and all those things all the time for it to understand who you are and what you want. It's hard to maintain. So with that, then we have something that's emerging, the Matter standard, which many of you, I'm going to assume some know Matter quite well and some might be learning about Matter. But it is a unified IP-based application protocol that is secure and robust that connects smart devices to each other. So an application language that they all speak and understand and learn, and they can be aware of each other because of it. It goes across suppliers or brands, and it goes across controllers. So whether it be a Google or an Apple or an Orange or Deutsche Telekom or an IKEA controller, all those can coexist, and Matter is the common language that allows them to do that. Okay, I'm going to show a quick video here that sort of kind of takes, where do we go from the smart home? We've got to get the smart home squared away. We have to enable the smart home and be successful there, but what does that mean from there? And what are the adjacent parts of our lives that the smart home can then push us forward to?
Imagine a smart life where stuff just works together. That's the promise of Matter, the industry-unifying standard that delivers reliable, secure interoperability that consumers demand. Just seamless integration and connectivity between ecosystems and devices in your home, and now in your car. Matter helps simplify life.
Okay, I love that video because it talks about a few things that haven't been connected together yet that are just coming with Matter 1.3, with EV charging capabilities, with TVs and cameras that are coming as well. All of that is realizable, and to do that would have been very difficult, right? Take a very curated system with lots of support and whatnot, and proprietary, means to do it. But now it can be done because we have that foundation. So I'm going to take a moment here. And by the way, if there's questions, I think we have a little extra time based off the slides I have. If there are questions along the way, please chime in, or you can save them until after. But I'm happy to have a discussion if there's curiosity about anything or clarification needed. So again, Matter, just what is Matter? It's an open source, royalty-free platform for interoperability coming from the CSA, the Connectivity Standard Alliance. It's a single application layer. And it's, as you can see right here, this would be the connectivity stack. And from your transport layers and your IP protocol with the TCP/IP and UDP as options there, Matter runs on top. So it's more like HTTP or SMTP. Even though some people think Matter's, it's all integrated with the radio, it's really just a layer that runs on top. And that allows us to run on IP protocols like Wi-Fi, Ethernet, Thread, which is IP-based, and so on. There'll be others. People ask, well, what if Bluetooth became IP? Well, then we could run on that natively, right? But it's a secure certificate-based protocol. So all the devices have a certificate-based security, running ASE. I think it's 128-bit at a minimum algorithm there. But it's also local network connectivity. So it does not rely on the cloud. It can be augmented. It can be enhanced by cloud. Interaction and cloud support, so for remote control and for synchronization and so on, but it doesn't rely on it. And that's the key thing. That's one of the things that was problem with especially builders, is if the broadband connection goes out, the cloud is unavailable, our homes become not so smart, period. So, and then simplified development. I know there's many developers in here, or those that support companies to develop products. It makes the ability to develop a device once feasible, because you don't have to develop a device for Wi-Fi and for BLE and for Z-Wave and for all these other technologies. And then, like for instance, door locks. There's so many door locks that were out there in the different technologies. They were duplicating the effort instead of innovating. So innovate instead of duplicate. And that allows you to also play within multiple ecosystems, whether it be Apple HomeKit or Google's Home, and Amazon and so on. And instead of having to go through and develop a device so that it can run in each of these, you can take the device and it will run in all of them. And so that increases your TAM, your total addressable market for your customers or manufacturers. And the very important is the certification of logo program, so that confidence, so a consumer can go into a store and buy something that has a Matter logo on it and know that it will work with other Matter logo devices. And that certification is really, really important. And because of that seamless interoperability that it promises. Okay, and as you can see, for those that I'm not in front of, they are significant brands. Even in Europe, you've got Legrand and Schneider and Siemens and Orange and Deutsche Telekom and IKEA and many others that are here, and it's growing. And I'll show you a little bit about the progress of where we're at on the momentum that's being built there. So again, a little bit of kind of background from a Matter ecosystem topology. So first, a Matter fabric, for those that may not be familiar, is basically the term that we use for an application network. So you've got Wi-Fi networks and Thread networks, for instance, and a Matter fabric runs on top of those. So instead of calling it a Matter network, it's a Matter fabric. And each of those fabrics contain a controller, which then brings in, is the one that mediates and administrates the fabric. It allows it operates and applies the operational certificates for the device-to-device communication. It brings devices on to, from a commissioning standpoint, so to securely allow trusted devices that are certified to come onto the fabric. And it also does command and control as well. And then you've got Matter device types. You've got end devices or edge devices that basically run the Matter applications. So whether it be a thermostat or a plug or a TV, those are Matter device types. And then bridges, this is an important one, which we'll talk about in a moment. The ability to take legacy protocols and then have those translate into Matter and be treated as a Matter virtual device so that they can participate in these Matter fabrics and be controlled in the same way as a Matter native device. So this is really important. We'll talk about that. As you can see, I'll talk about Zigbee and some other topics there. Okay. Speaking of which, so going into the bridge, right? Just an illustration of what I just said, which is you've got these Zigbee network devices. Let's say the blinds and the light bulb and the sensor there are virtualized within the Matter fabric because of the bridge, and it allows it to do that. The one thing that's a little bit of an advantage for Zigbee over some of the other protocols is because Matter and Zigbee use the same data model. So a light bulb in Zigbee is the same as a light bulb in Matter. You know, the dimming, the level control, the dimming, you know, settings, and how you interact with it, it's all the same. It uses the same, we call it, it's a cluster library, but it's all built up with the same structure there. And so Zigbee is very straightforward, which means the 500 million Zigbee chipsets that are already out in the field today do not have to be thrown away or replaced. They can just coexist seamlessly within a Matter fabric. And so as you can see, you got Zigbee devices among Matter devices, and those will operate in a straightforward way. And the Zigbee is what creates that. Now, some people say, well, it'll take years and Matter will replace Zigbee. We don't know, right? Maybe Zigbee will just continue forward. Zigbee does have some advantages, especially low power, that may be critical to continue on, and it's hard to change a whole set of sensors to go just go through the certification and whatnot. And so we have a lot of customers that say, hey, we would just rather stay with our Zigbee sensors as they are today and then build Matter devices around those. And I think that's very feasible, and it's a very straightforward prospect as long as the consumer education can be solved there. But then, no, don't frown too much, because I'm not a wibutler expert, but let's just say we went to a wibutler to Matter bridge. Obviously, then you could have light switches and smart bulbs and ceiling fans through a wibutler controller that's acting as that Matter to wibutler bridge. And so you could have those working in concert in a way where Matter could bring in a much bigger ecosystem and then enhance what you're doing with wibutler today. So again, that's as far as I know about wibutler, so please educate me. Correct me where I'm wrong, but there's bridges for Z-Wave bridges, and there's other types of bridges that are being put out by different manufacturers today. Okay, talking about the last slide on kind of what is Matter. Security is synonymous with Matter. There's so many things that have been up-leveled with Matter and enhanced to a level that will solve a number of problems, from secure and flexible commissioning to authentication and basically to the attestation to allow devices or controllers to understand that this is an authentic device from this manufacturer. It's certified. You know, that attestation is really important there. We use a distributed compliance ledger, which is a blockchain technology to be able to provide that information, to be able to do that attestation. Access control, so device to device can be able to have specific granularity of what they will allow to be controlled between devices, which can be very valuable, especially if you have safety critical devices. And as we get into some of the EV and electrification areas, these access control capabilities are important. Secure standard OTA. We find this, from NXP, we find this as a big deal because everybody has had to do their own form of OTA, but to have something standardized and has the security that Matter provides is really critical. So, and there's many more things, but the security is really, really a critical thing there. Okay, so we'll transition there to get a little bit of the progress and the momentum that Matter is showing. So our board member companies, I think in 2016 we had maybe 11 or 12 board members, and Zigbee was kind of struggling, and it was kind of going down a little bit at the time. Now we're well over 30, probably 34, 35 today. Membership count went from around 100 to over 700. And these are significant companies all over the world. As you can see, Matter is just one of the working groups. It's the most significant right now. Zigbee is still very strong. You've got some other things that are happening. The product security is that program I was mentioning where it's really generating the label program for the different regulatory and regions and whatnot. Data model is what kind of binds everything together, and then data privacy is another big one that's coming. Aliro is one that might be new for you. This is, the brand name is kind of like a Matter brand name. It's synonymous with home access control. So secure home access. So many might be familiar with the secure car access using UWB now and BLE and whatnot. So home access, so Aliro will provide that same thing for your home. So your phone, you could tap with an NFC and be able to enter. You could use UWB, or less secure, but still possible, is BLE as well. Okay? Another slide. So the CSA hasn't really released a lot of information about who's, well, let me back up. So the CSA, what happens when you certify a product, it goes on their website. There's a public listing, and you'll see that back at the end of the year, there was over 2,100 listings and certified products, and that's continued on. In Q4, I think there are hundreds more that would have been certified, and it continues to grow. And so that's what they release is the certifications. But the actual products that we'll find on shelves and on the internet that we can buy that have Matter certification is coming. And over 75% of the membership have said that they will, if they haven't released a Matter product in 2024, they will. And so you'll see a lot more products, real products that are coming, especially in appliances. You'll see as a pretty significant area. But anything from Matter controllers to smart apps to routers, you'll see a lot of routers having Matter and Thread embedded in them, and then end devices of a number of, like a wide variety of end devices. ABI still thinks that smart home will be synonymous with Matter. Now, in some cases, Matter will coexist with apps that are today or other protocols. You'll have multiple protocols, like for instance, in EV charging, there's something called, I think it's, can't remember the name, something OPP. So anyways, there's a specific protocol that allows, that's used for EV charging. OCPP, thank you. OCPP will then coexist with Matter, right? Because that's a cloud to device interaction there, and then Matter does the local device to device. And so having both of those present is straightforward. And so you'll see Matter will coexist with other things where needed, because it's flexible and it doesn't take a huge footprint to do that. Okay. Right here, if anybody saw a similar format slide from the CSA in, was it November 2022 when we launched in Amsterdam? It was much smaller. You can see that this has grown significantly. And I'll show you a different version kind of to categorize these, but it's definitely grown. There's a lot more device support, and it's coming from device companies. So it's appliance manufacturers, white good manufacturers. It's robot vacuums. If you look at that, you'll see the membership. You'll see Dyson. You'll see iRobot. All the leading device manufacturers are the ones that are driving these standards, not the semiconductor companies like us or the integration companies and whatnot. It's coming from those that know those applications well, and it's a really good representation of those markets and those application types. So from an NXP perspective, I broke this up to show you kind of we've got a plethora, a number of appliances in that, from white goods to robotic vacuum cleaners to HVAC and environmental sensors and whatnot. So this is becoming a very much more complete list, and so this is really important for what's going on there. Building control, and then you've got your typical home control, and then where you've got lighting and plugs and smoke alarms and window coverings and so on. And then TVs, and we're just launched with 1.3, and now you'll see cameras and then the integration with the Lero, which is that home access control for smart locks. Okay. So, and a couple initiatives that we're really excited about is the Pro Home and Commercial Building. So I think it's called Pro Home and Building is typically what we refer to it as. And this is looking at the Matter device types as they are today and the capabilities, and either adapting them just as is into the building control, or modifying where that makes sense. And so there's a large group headed up by a number of a lot of the companies I mentioned, especially European companies, that are driving this dialogue right now. And so this is something that's coming. It's rapidly coming because smart home was the initial initiative for Matter, and now building control is another key area. And then you get the pro home installers, which are a little bit different than the typical smart home DIY market, and which I believe wibutler is heavy with that type of market as well. Connected car, we show you some of those use cases in that video. Connected car is another exciting one. And so NXP, especially being such an automotive driven supplier, in addition to IoT and industrial, that's an important area for us, and we're excited about it. And then energy management is the next one that really goes across all of the domains, all of the markets, and we're very excited about the EVSC support and then the energy management controller support that came within Matter 1.3 and is being expanded, taking some of the smart meter capabilities, so you can look at energy pricing, energy scheduling, demand control, things like that. And if you can see here on the bottom, I'll just kind of move over here so those on this side can see. These are some of the newer kind of capabilities that we're trying to push forward from NXP that you'll see in hopefully in coming versions. So from ambient sensing, so this would be more presence detection and locationing of individuals with or without a device. Proximity ranging, so device to device ranging, and knowing where the devices are in proximity to each other. NFC enhanced commissioning, and so NXP being one of the market share leaders of NFC is something that we're excited about, because when the ability to take a device, tap it to your access point, or just take your phone and just tap it to a Matter device and have it immediately be able to be commissioned without any extra work would be fantastic, and we're driving towards that. And that definitely resonates really well with the end users, and so there's a lot of exciting ways that'll come to fruition. Ecosystem, this is ability to have a Google Home and an Alexa Home and an Apple Home and a Residio or a Orange ecosystem all coexist together. So that same thermostat that you commissioned once can all be interacted with by any controller. And so we had something called multi-admin that was originally released, had some limitations. So this E2E, we call it, initiative will definitely enhance that in a tremendous way. I'm just gonna, you can read these ones, but the one I'm really excited about is energy reporting. So each device has the ability to report its measured or estimated energy usage. So why is that important? Well, because that's something that, as Liz just said, there's a Matter controller that has energy management capability in the ecosystem, and it goes out and it can discover the Matter devices on the fabric, and it can discover the capabilities. And by doing that, it can have the ability to have intelligent scheduling and intelligent control of those devices based off the energy consumption. So that's really important to have that just flexible and discoverable ability of understanding of what different modes are within those appliances and what kind of energy they would use and so on. Just having a device be able to self-report is tremendous. And it allows for a lot more ad hoc creation of home environments there. Okay, come back over here. So what does that mean? That means, as I just talked about, as we build upon Matter, then that intelligence allows us to do things to be able to conquer the emissions challenge, to be able to reduce energy waste and things like that. And so all of those devices being able to provide those capabilities, be discoverable, talk the same language, be controlled by something that's intelligent, or even have intelligence built into itself. Like, for instance, a washer, you could come up to a washer, and if that washer can then subscribe to something in that Matter fabric that'll tell it that, hey, right now energy costs are high, maybe you should not run a load for 3 hours. Or instead of doing a quick load, which I understand in laundries, there's a quick cycle. It's like 15 minutes. At least in America, they have a 15-minute cycle versus a normal long cycle. I used to think the quick cycle was less energy. I'm told by our appliance manufacturers it's a lot more energy. So even though you want to run to wash your soccer kit if you're playing, where's Edmund? If you're playing with your boys there, and you want to run a quick cycle because you need it quickly, but it's going to cost you, it's at peak rates and it's going to cost you this much more. Maybe you don't. Maybe it says, hey, let's schedule this to happen in 3 hours from now. Something like that, where the intelligence can be built within the device, and it can be enhanced by the capabilities that it can learn from in the devices that it subscribes to in that fabric. Does that make sense? Any questions there? Okay. You guys are, like I said, you're welcome to speak up, and if I'm speaking too quickly, please let me know, because I want to make sure this is valuable to you. Okay, so from there, some of the things I was talking about, this does a little bit of a kind of a layout of what an energy management ecosystem would look like, whether it be in a home or a building. You've got your power conversion systems, and energy storage systems, and energy supply, EV supply equipment. As we note here, all of these little green boxes show that there could be embedded energy management intelligence or control within each of these. You could, of course, have a separate controller, like say like a Honeywell controller that does the orchestrations. It's a very sophisticated system that can do a lot of things. Or you can have it distributed across different types of systems. So for instance, we talked with one of our EVSE customers, and they want to be able to have a Matter controller, so they can simply be able to interact with the HVAC or the thermostat or just specific loads that they want to control, but they don't want to control everything else. They just want to have that limited capability embedded in their device, and then they can participate with something that's more sophisticated to do more broad control, that turn on the lights and the entertainment and those things. And so that's allowable within the way that we're constructing Matter, okay? But again, you've got the critical loads, like your refrigerator needs to be always on, safety devices, security devices, or you got priority loads, which is your, your security surveillance or your thermostats and so on, and lighting. And then you've got interruptible loads. This is that example I was telling you about, the laundry cycle deciding to hold off because peak rates are high. Or you're running off of a battery and you'll surpass the current load that it can draw at that time. So it can make these intelligent decisions all in a distributed manner, and I think that's tremendous because of all the intelligences there. And then again, the electricity meters is going to be another source of that information in the home. And this shows right here where we're at with Matter. We just released the EVSC. The first EVSC just happened a few weeks ago. And the energy management controller, so these could also be kind of a dark blue, but they're going to continue to be enhanced. And I think this is exciting because this applies to everything from the electrification in your mobility, in your car, in your automobile, to your building and your workplaces, to your home. And I think that's one of the major things that can propel something like Matter forward, because Matter provides that foundation for everything to be interacted with and to be able to be controlled in a meaningful way. Okay, again, built on Matter. Once we get to a built on Matter kind of scenario, that also then starts to create some of these other interactions between your home and your vehicle, and your user to vehicle, and your vehicle to infrastructure. So to different types of, like your EV charging and public grid and things like that. And so I think there's a lot to come as we expand outside the home that we're really trying to drive forward. Okay, a little bit just at the end, if you don't mind, I wanted to talk a little bit about why NXP are doing what we do. Yes, you have a question?
How far is the electricity and the standard GPU using? So how intelligent is the whole infrastructure for electricity and so on?
So as far as how intelligent is it today, there's building blocks being put in place. I would not say that it's completely where they want it to be to have the full orchestration yet, but there are capabilities within how an EVSE is defined and what type of messages, like when charging is done, or just kind of basic operations, so that all of that information can be available and reported out. So like a controller could subscribe to that, or a car could subscribe to that directly, and say, using Matter or the home or whatnot, and say, hey, charging is done, or this is where it's at. Those types of functionality, I think, are in place, and there's others. I have not been the personal expert in how those have been configured. I know they're much more sophisticated than what I told you just now, but they're coming, right? So a lot of that 1.4 will be a bigger enhancement, and then 1.5, and as I mentioned before, each version comes biannually, right? So every 6 months will be a new version, and so you'll typically see them in May and November. So, okay.
Neil,
Yes, please.
It looks so great. So what do you think? What is the disadvantage or the limitations of the system?
So the limitations of the system, good question. Things that we've got to sort out right now, first of all, that ecosystem to ecosystem, that's been a limitation. Because the way, to be very candid with you, the way they did it initially was a device could have 5 different controllers or be a part of 5 different fabrics, minimum. You could have memory to do more, but typically it was required to have 5. And so the limitation with Matter so far has been, if I take this, let's just say that TV, like if I wanted to have that TV be controlled by a Google Home, an Apple, an Amazon, and whatnot, I have to commission those to each of those device controllers one by one. And that's burdensome, it's difficult, right? So that's a limitation there that has been difficult. I wouldn't call it a limitation, but it's taking some acclimation to getting acclimated to the new costs of being able to have to certify a device and to have to increase the security levels on it. So it's taking a little bit of a education and a transition to make sure there's enough capability in the device to be able to have the Matter footprint, which is not very big, but it adds a little bit, to be able to have the security and go through all the security attestation, and then and again, just to make sure that going through the certification program. And so I would say some of the initial kind of excitement that we expected around Matter and how we didn't immediately see products is because of those types of things. where they just want to, some of them, I'll be honest with you, some product companies just want to wait until that administration, that ecosystem kind of coexistence sorts itself out. And then they've been on the fence a little bit, and they'll get more involved. And so I think those are probably the big ones. Thread is still kind of finding its ways. So Thread with the whole kind of border router and how it's still kind of a new thing, and where do you run border routers within the environment? It's still coming. So 1.3.1, I believe, was just, or there will be a new version of Thread that has the ability to have better network management and to be able to access credentials and things like that. And so your ability to have Thread networks combined and merge together, instead of having a Thread network for your Apple devices and a Thread network for your Google devices and a Thread network for, whatever, and having it from a Matter perspective, it doesn't matter. But from a optimal kind of using the mesh network, it's substandard because you're not part of the same mesh network again. And so those are some of the things I would be candid that we're sorting through, but we do have paths for improvement that are ongoing.
Another question for the audience, there was a box building controls, and there was a remark, NXP is working on new, I don't know, partners for building controls. What does it mean?
So working on partners for building controls, you're talking about this one right here?
No, different forums with different device types.
Oh, the device types, yeah. So, so we are working with different energy management. If I understood your question correctly, you're talking about there was different partnerships for building controls.
Yeah.
So we, as NXP, are trying to, we're trying to migrate, feeling that smart home is moving forward in a positive way, take a little bit of extra focus, not take the focus off smart home, but add focus elsewhere. Building control is a significant area for us to invest in, because there are things that we believe the Matter approach can solve. Now, maybe in building control, it might not be called Matter. It might be something different, or it may be called Matter. We don't know. But right now, that is being studied and looked at, and we are working closely with a lot of the building control partners to do that. And energy management right now is almost synonymous with building control. Like, that is so important in your architecture and your approach that they just are one in one there. So, did that sort of answer?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Stefan. Let's talk more later for sure. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so really quickly, just a little bit about NXP and why we are invested in Matter and why we are unique offering. I've got a few minutes, right? So we have what we believe is the broadest portfolio of devices, from processing to connectivity to security and so on, and sensing. Really, really important to be able to have the broadest, and which means we are the most exposed. If we have to certify a device across all of our platforms and we have to certify every platform, it would be overwhelming. And so we're driving the standard to be friendly to certification because we have such a large portfolio. You can match radios with security, with different processors, which is very different than a lot of the certification programs like Zigbee, because you usually had one chip, which had your processing and your connectivity all in one. It was just one chip, and they could certify it once, and everybody can use it. So it's difficult for us to make sure, it would be difficult if we didn't make sure that we're covered in that. And so we're trying to lead out to give that flexibility for your customers or for yourselves. We have over 10,000 customers active in our platforms today, and so we have to have strong software and security and services and tools to do that. And NXP is best in class in that. Also, we are on the boards of these standards, driving them directly to help represent you guys and our partners and our customers to make sure that what they're trying to develop, they can. And innovation, our pioneering heritage is very, very alive within NXP. We are driving new use cases. We're being asked all the time, innovate, help your customers, work with your customers, find enhancements over what you're doing instead of just being a commoditized standard, which standards, again, push us all into a commodity area, but that's why we're looking at how can we build upon Matter and not just connect with Matter. Okay, real quickly, like I said, just a few minutes here. These are some of our leading platforms that some of you may be aware of. I know with ithinx, with Wiesmann, they're already familiar with the top one, with the IW612 and the IWMX in the demo that they have there. This is a really industry-leading platform solution because it has the tri-radio capability and built into a single chip. And the reason we did that, and I was the one that actually drove our tri-radios because knowing Matter was coming, was we wanted to be able to embed this capability in devices that are already in the home. So instead of adding another hub, another controller, take that intelligence, put it into a device that's there, whether it be a smart speaker, a security panel, or even a sound bar or something, or a TV, and have it embedded in there. And you can only do that by embedding that or integrating that capability into the chips that typically buy. They're not going to add more chips. Okay, and the RW612 takes those two chips, combines them into one, but more of a MCU level, so smaller capability, but still very powerful. So like a Cortex M33 with like 260 megahertz of processing power with memory built in and so on. It's a really, really good chip, very popular. And appliances to speakers to IP cameras. It's a really smart, it's really in-demand platform. And then of course we have our ED devices that are run 802.15.4 discretely or BLE discretely. So we think we have a really good representation of modern, innovative chips to be able to support Matter in a seamless way. We also have EdgeLock to Go, which is a service that acts as a PAA, a product attestation authority within Matter that allows that is required. And so our EdgeLock to Go can provide that not only for NXP devices, but for anyone, whether it be TI or Silicon Labs or Qualcomm, it doesn't matter. We can provide that at a very competitive cost. And that's something that we try to do because that allows us to remotely inject devices in the manufacturing floor or even in the field. And then, again, connecting with Matter, our ability to really give you platforms that connect well and Matter runs seamlessly, to increasing our ability to do sensing and ranging, so the device proximity ranging and then the presence detection. And then that information, that data then feeds into the processing with the AI/ML and all that capability to be able to have smart, intelligent, and efficient decisions and autonomous activity. So based off that, again, onboarding, network enablement, security enablement, reference designs for Matter control and admin, this is where we're leading out to be able to get Matter connected. And then from there, building on top of Matter. And the intelligence, the RF sensing, the person and ambient awareness, and energy management. Everything is about that and driving that to make Matter that foundation to move forward. I'm going to skip past this real quickly. My last slide is what we showed at CES. So at CES, we actually had an autonomous home immersive experience where, as you were able to walk in, it knew who you were and knew where you were, and the home interacted with you and could learn from you. And then it could actually take action. It could move the blinds. It could turn up change to a different track. It could dim the lights, or whatever, right? Those types of things it could do. And then it had two different zones, and as you moved from one zone to another zone, it knew where you were. Like for instance, we used UWB ranging with the phones, so it knew where you were in the kitchen. And then as you left the phone in the kitchen and you walked into the entertainment area, it could detect that you were sitting on the couch facing the TV screen and realize, hey, this is movie time, right? And so it dimmed the lights, shut the blinds down, turn on the entertainment, and you could sit there and have an experience without doing anything, without having a phone on you or anything like that. And that's all using Matter as a foundation to talk to each other and take that presence and understanding and then create that personalized experience. And people loved it. It was really fun. And they're looking at it as, hey, this is where Matter can take us because Matter is the plumbing. It just happens. It's done. We don't have to worry about that. We can have the fun experiences on top of that. So that's where we're headed, and I think it's exciting and it's fun. So thank you for your time today.